empowering you to build better lives. That's what we do. Okay, welcome to today's version of Empower, the podcast dedicated to empowering you to achieve the success you want. I am here today with Brianna Rahn, our newly promoted Team Elite and Platinum Elite. Congratulations on both of those.
Thank you.
And we've been on a couple of trips together. We've been on a couple Success or Team Elite trips together.
Yeah, my first Team Elite trip this year.
And have gotten to know you a bit there. And your team speaks so highly of you. When we were talking about people coming in for this live event, Kathy said, Ryan, you have to sit down with Bree. And so that's where it came from. So thanks for being here.
It's an honor. Yeah, it's an honor. Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little, we got into your background. I like to always start there and spend just a couple of minutes so people get to know you. You grew up in New York and you're now in South Carolina. So give us a quick sketch of how did you get from there to here?
Yeah, of course. So born and raised, like I said, in New York. Grew up in a very, traditional household, mom, dad, older sister who's 4 years older than me. We are very, very close, inseparable at that. And she ended up moving to Texas probably about 7 years ago, but now we were all in South Carolina together, actually. My parents moved
Everyone's
first.
moved to South Carolina,
Yeah.
which Hilton Head's a beautiful area.
Yeah.
So if you're anywhere near that proximity.
Yeah, we're about 30 minutes from Hilton Head, so we're living the Southern life now. So
such a good life.
nice
By the way,
change from New York.
Your accent, so people tell me I have a Utah accent.
You do.
Accent
You definitely
sounds Southern for being a New Yorker.
Okay, I like that. I'd prefer that.
So how long have you been in South Carolina?
Just about 2.5 years now.
Really?
So fairly new. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't she sound more Southern? So
a little Southern twang.
You've picked up a little bit of that.
Yeah.
In spite of growing up in New York. Were you upstate or?
We were upstate. We were right outside of West Point.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah.
Good.
And same with my husband. We were both born and raised there.
So your father, your mother, what did your dad do as a profession? Is he still?
Yeah, he's actually, funny enough, he does accounting and he's semi-retired, but is actually like in the most busiest season of his career in life. He actually does consulting now.
Okay.
But he did accounting for like electrical companies previously when I was growing up. And then my mom was actually, I spoke a little about this in Mexico, and the story today with James, right?
James Lawrence,
was so moving because my mom actually worked her entire career with a young girl who had severe cerebral palsy.
Wow.
And actually had lost her mother during birth. So my mom stepped into this role as not only a one-on-one aide to this young girl, but a bonus mom, a caretaker, was very much involved in her life. And then in turn, she was, part of our family in a way. So yeah, that spoke to me a lot.
That's
today
special.
Too. Yeah.
And you have siblings?
I do. Sister. Yeah. Older sister.
Older sister. Okay. Great. And what were you like in high school, growing up, junior high? Were you into sports? Were you into school? Were you into music?
Yeah. So I was very much, I always had, which I think, brings me to where I am today. I always had like a desire to lead.
Yeah.
So I was a cheerleader, which some people consider that a sport. Some people don't, but I did like,
I mean, I don't know if I'd call, I agree. I don't know if it's a sport or a
certain levels,
but it's certainly an athletic endeavor.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Being a cheerleader, you have to be coordinated. You have to be fit. You have to be able to not be scared of being thrown in the air.
And I was thrown in the air. I was one of the flyers.
Which, by the way, I wouldn't trust. I did the yell leading thing, just for a few months. Until my football coach told me I'd be kicked off of the team if I kept doing it. But I wouldn't trust.
Yeah.
A guy
it takes a lot of.
Throw me in the air.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you did that.
I did that. Yeah.
Okay.
And
were you in student government then? You said leadership.
Yeah, I actually was the president of my middle school class.
Nice.
Which thinking back, I'm like, wow, that was bold of me to do. And I actually loved,
fearless, right?
Yeah.
Why not?
Exactly.
Why not do it? And I think if people stuck to that more, we all in life of just being fearless and doing things because as kids, you just do things because you want to do things, right? You don't think about what would everyone else think. Can I do it? The self-doubt because your parents told you could do it.
Yep.
Right?
Always.
So you can do it.
Exactly that. So yeah, I did a little bit of student government in middle school, and then high school still cheered. I did a little bit of competitive cheer, then high school cheer. I was varsity cheer captain, and always was surrounded by like the best of friends. I just had like a really, really great upbringing. Some of the best friends I could like
great.
ever, have in my life. They were all in my wedding party. My husband's 8 best friends were his groomsmen too. Like we had a literally wedding party of like 17 people. So we're people, like
That's
we
great.
definitely love hard on, those that are in our lives. So I feel like that has translated into New Skin and what I've been able to build here as well. Because it started at, a young age as well.
So tell me about, how did you get from, college or those years into
I love it.
New Skin?
So funny enough, I actually went to college. Originally, I was going to Pace University in Manhattan, downtown Manhattan, and I was going to major in psychology because, again, I wanted to serve, I wanted to help, I was always like very intrigued about people's emotions and feelings and like how I can better serve in that way. And I went there for 2 weeks and I called my dad. Actually, at the time, I went through like a stupid breakup. And I was like, Dad, I just don't want to live here. I don't like living in the city. He was like, I'll be there. I'm coming right now. Like, don't worry about it. Coming to get you. I was literally there for 2 weeks. So thank God I didn't do that, because looking back, I would have had a career that I probably wouldn't have loved as much as I thought maybe at that time that I would have. I would have had a lot of student loan debt, which I don't have now, fortunately. So I actually started working for a bit as a dental assistant and bartended, and I made some great relationships bartending. And then dental assisting, I came to find out that, again, I had like this passion around wanting to help people, especially in the dental field where people feel uncomfortable, vulnerable, like, generally speaking, very uneasy in the dental chair. So I was like, okay, well, dental assisting didn't really pay that well. So I decided to go to school for dental hygiene, which was a 2-year program, 2.5, whatever it was. And I knew that I could actually make a good income and have really flexible hours if I wanted to, when I wanted to build a family. So did that for, did my 2 years of school, started dental hygiene immediately, actually in the office that I went to as a kid. So I actually knew the owners of the practice really well. It was a private practice, so they were very just like lenient. And I learned a lot there. There were some different, dentists that I worked with within that one practice throughout the years. So I did that for 7 years. And New Skin came into my life in 2020 when my office was actually closed during the pandemic. And I was sitting home and I started just like focusing more on like getting out and taking walks. I was giving myself my own like at-home manicures and pedicures every day. I had like this time on my hands that I was like, what do I do with this now? My husband was owning and operating his gym at the time. So that was a little tricky with the pandemic, but he was still able to like see clients here and there with all the rules they had going on at that point. So yeah, I was just like kind of bored, right?
Yeah.
So I was watching Gretchen on Instagram, and I followed her for a bit previously to her, or prior to her starting to share New Skin. And I bought the Lumi, and I asked her, I think after 2 uses, I said, how do I share this thing like you are? Okay. So that's where my New Skin journey started in 2020. And I will say I did actually, along the way, try network marketing previously. I did Rodan and Fields for a bit. And it just didn't work for me. I don't think I was like in the right headspace for it at the time that I was trying it. I was planning my wedding. It wasn't really a good, not to make that an excuse, but it just wasn't like the timing was off, right?
No, I think timing in everything in life is
absolutely
vital, right? And for sure, if you weren't at that space, or you weren't maybe bored or looking for more things to do in the midst of planning a wedding, you probably didn't want to take
do
on
that.
More,
Yeah. So I knew that when I signed up with New Skin, I was like, I knew the vision to an extent. I knew that I wanted to share the product, sure, but I also wanted to build a team.
Yeah,
like I knew from the jump, I was like, oh, if people are asking me if they could share this too, like I'm bringing them on board. I'm showing them how to bring their people on board. And I built a very like strong foundation and strong culture from day one. I say that humbly. But that was something I was like very prideful of. It wasn't necessarily, sure, I wanted to make money and I saw that money, you know, come rolling in fairly quickly. But I wanted to impact and I wanted to serve and I wanted to show other people that this is equally as possible for them to do.
What do you think? So that's unusual. What I would say is it's fairly unusual for people to immediately kind of hone in on, hey, this model is more than just a money making thing. It's more than just a sharing products I love thing. It's actually something that gives I can serve. I can give impact. Like how did you detect that?
I think truthfully seeing how Gretchen led and how seamless it was for us to build a culture of sidelines, like very successfully, very early. I was like, I want my own of that. Like I want to do what she's doing, but in, you know, my own way.
Yeah.
So
that's
I think,
where when you said you've always had this tendency to lean into being a leader, that's probably a little bit of that independent
100%.
Hey, I can do that too.
Yeah.
I want to build it myself type of mindset.
Yeah.
Probably helped to connect those things for you. So you saw what she was doing and you said, hey, I could do that too.
Yep.
And then for you to add on to that, the other point you said is you've always had a strong culture from the beginning.
Yeah.
Again, something that's not really a natural first thought for people starting out in a business. It's actually usually something that comes out about year 10 when companies realize, wait, culture matters. And we better start to standardize that. But from the very beginning, it sounded like that was something where you said, hey, I needed a strong culture. I had a strong culture.
Absolutely. And I think that just came from even like my childhood. Like I always had the best friends. Like, and I didn't join this business because I needed more friends.
Culture, then. Define when you say we had a good culture from the beginning. How do you define culture?
I would say, you know, always having like a strong foundation of trust and really being able to like inspire and collaborate without, you know, feeling like there's any like competition. Like everyone is, I want my people to win equally, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the best answer.
No, I think I'm curious because there's always the standard definition of what is culture, but I think for when you live it and you define it for yourself, your team, it is something that I think we all need to be more cognizant of even in our family culture. You know, what is it that we stand for? And I don't mean in just a value sense, you have to have a creed, but they used to do that, right? You had a family creed and it had trust and honor or whatever.
So true.
But I feel like to the point of, what are those values that we aspire to hold true within our team no matter what? We support each other, we collaborate, we listen, all those things. We respect each other.
Yep, that's big.
And I'm assuming to your point about Gretchen and the team you joined, you saw that immediately and you thought, okay, I can now do this for myself.
Yep.
Which I think is a unique thing about this business, right? Is that you have this ability to totally set up shop for yourself. Every one of our leaders is a micro CEO of their own company.
Absolutely.
I mean, Newskin's their partner, but you run your own business, and it's your culture. It's your defining business model. It's how you work. But you saw that pretty early on. It sounds like you're pretty intentional about it.
Yeah, I definitely was. For sure. You guys give us like the blueprint, but we are then, in charge. For sure.
So as you got into this 2020, you start getting into the business, COVID's locked down. When did you kind of figure, okay, maybe I should be doing this more like seriously?
I wrote down the timeline in my phone. I think I hit brand rep within 6 weeks. And then within the first 6 months of my business, I promoted, I want to say, to Emerald. And within the first year, I hit my first success trip. So that was my proof and evidence that I knew what I was doing. You know, like if I was earning this recognition, I was like, wait, I'm doing something right here, you know? But more importantly, my my girls were winning, you know? So I was
Yeah.
like, okay, if I could scale back on hygiene, and it was a conversation actually during the 3 months that my office was closed, John and I would be like, you know, like, I'm making a decent enough paycheck with Newstein. Should I stop hygiene altogether? And I was like, yeah, you know, like I'll hold on to it for a bit.
Yeah.
And when I went back, I want to say I scaled back my days to like 3 days a week versus 5. So I definitely scaled back my hours because I knew I was coming home from doing hygiene and I was jumping into my team chats and I had a whiteboard in my office. I was writing down our blocks and we were, I was very intentional and I was very focused on like driving title, you know, my leaders to get where they want to be. So yeah, from the jump, I was very just, to your point, I knew that I wanted to find success with team building. I knew I wanted to, you know, make a, you know, good enough income where I could potentially walk away from hygiene completely. And then like it was kind of just God's plan in the way that we ended up moving and I walked away from hygiene because of the timing was just...
The timing was right to go do something else.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think to your point on timing's come up a few different times. And I think a lot of times people come into the business and they expect it to work, first of all, according to everyone else's time frame.
Right.
Not according to their own. And then two, that they should, like right now is the right time for this right thing to happen, when I do think life needs to kind of unfold, right?
Yeah,
and
on its own a bit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that's interesting. Do you feel like so you came in at the height of what we call the COVID bubble, right? And not just new skin, like within direct selling in general. 2020, everyone's locked in their homes. People are bored. They start to think maybe it gives them a little bit more flexibility and autonomy. And they're like, and then people start being called back to the office. And then they're like, oh, now I'm distracted. I don't have as much time. And little by little, you know, you kind of settle back to the norm, the pre-COVID norms. And that's kind of happened a lot. So, but in your case, it's interesting because your business, you came in, you experienced that. You've also just recently achieved Team Elite and Platinum Elite. So it sounds like things are still going great. Has your business every business will hit a roadblock and it will hit blockades along the way. And some will be smaller, some will be bigger. That's just business. And by the way, if you're doing it for decades, you're going to hit a lot of them. So we've been in this 32 years now to New Skin. I've been here. We've had 5 or 6 mega roadblocks, right? Something macro like COVID hits. Something macro happens in China. I mean, things just happen. The persistency of business over time is success, right? It's actually, you just keep going and through the low times. But have you hit a roadblock? If you did, and if you have, how did you work through it? How are you working through it? What's your mindset?
Yeah, I love that. I'm kind of in... And I say this loosely because we are still winning in so many ways. But I would say right now the momentum is the slightest bit down. Because there are still so many promotions happening and so many pockets of my organization that are thriving, you know. But I think naturally taking on, you know, this chapter and season of life with motherhood, being a first-time mom, I'm home with my son. Thank God because of this business. But that has been a very transitional phase and, you know, season of life for me that I think I've, you know, just prioritized a little bit differently. And I think sometimes that, you know, then translates within your business and really probably within any job in that way. So we haven't though. I mean, to answer your question directly, we haven't really hit any major roadblocks yet within my organization as a whole. We've been pretty like steadily growing for the past 5 years, which is incredible to say. And like hitting month 6 Team Elite in December 2024, you know, with my baby on my chest, literally as I was like FaceTiming Gretchen. It's just surreal to think about. I think I had 39 promotions in my organization that month. So the growth has definitely been, there's been more growth than not, you know?
Sure.
But I'm also aware that, you know, I think I guess too, like there's points within the business that you tend to focus on the losses naturally, but you just gotta move and groove and focus on the wins. And I think that's been something that I've learned through this. And normally I'm someone who's like, I, carry so much emotion when it comes to other people's like success, and I want them to feel like they have such an important space here and such a, important like livelihood within this business almost. And it just doesn't always go that way for everyone, So, I mean, even looking back, my first, brand rep who helped me get to, or I should say my first 10K leg that helped me get to Emerald is no longer even in my business, So it was just kind of like you hit those roadblocks to an extent, but it never, fortunately, there was always something better to focus on, I guess, is the
Okay, so
answer.
I think you just answered my question.
Yeah,
I was
finally.
like, okay, you haven't hit you haven't yet hit the roadblock, and yet you lost one of your biggest legs, or
when I first,
and you just shifted gears and said, but there's something bigger to focus on.
Yeah, there's someone else.
And I think that's, again, we were talking previously with Carly about, like, there's always the stories we tell ourselves, right? The stories in our head, whatever we choose to focus on is.
Right.
And that's kind of it. Yeah, you can we can either focus on the negative, the thing that just happened, that I actually would call a pretty big roadblock, because in the qualification, that's like a quarter of your business, right? If you lose a leg like that.
Right.
So that actually is a pretty decent roadblock that you hit, but you said, no, I kind of just push through it. You go focus on what's next.
Yeah.
What's the next thing?
Right.
So that's great.
Yeah.
So what would you say, as you now look out to the future and you say, okay, I'm a 1 year team elite, I'm in platinum, meaning I'm one of the fastest growing leaders in the company. What do you want to accomplish over the next 5 years? And you're in this new season of life with Lion, and I love the name, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
And what do you see happening in the next 5 years?
Yeah. So much. I mean, I want my leaders, most importantly, to have like the thriving business that I have, like I want them to see it and feel it for themselves. So I would love to have, within the next 5 years, I would love to have 2 team elites in my organization, minimally. And I would love to be hitting team elite year after year consistently. Because that's also, not that it's, again, there's so much growth still happening, but there is, you hit team elite and then you don't hit it not everyone hits it back to back months, right?
Sure.
So I think that is something that's we're in like a rebuild phase to an extent, in that way. But yeah, I would love to have team elites in my organization, and I would love, for my organization as a whole to be hitting it consistently year after year.
I think it's such a good thing, and I do think having those milestones of how many people in my team do I want to achieve this level with me, right? Team elite, like at least 1 a year,
right?
Right. So you should have 5 in the next 5 years.
So there we go. That's a better goal.
Well, no, just thinking the reality of if you're on this journey and you can get one person to come along and see the same potential, and have the success you've had,
right?
Then you're 5Xing your organization over the next 5 years. I mean, that's the simple math of the process. So it's well, that's great. No, that's exciting. Maybe one more question before, and then anything you want to cover that we haven't covered. But as you see, like where is your mind? As you said, we're kind of in a rebuild period right now, or kind of the next phase of the stage of growth. What does that look like for you? What are you excited about? What are you focused on?
Yeah. I think all my leaders are bringing in just new, like have a heavy focus on bringing in newer people versus like trying to kind of
resurrect the past.
Re-inspire, re-motivate, that type of thing. It's like we're all kind of focused on like we have all these people that we haven't even met yet that are still going to come into our business,
For sure.
So I think that's a heavy focus. As well as just, continuously like focusing on the Prism, I think more than anything, continuously focusing on, sorry, I lost my train of thought there, focusing on the launches that we have more than anything. Prism is going to quite literally, I mean, I feel like double, triple everyone's businesses in that way. So I think we have such an opportunity to, especially within the whole, you know, the whole theme of like bringing it into making healthy households and not just going the route of getting into like medical practices and physicians. Like I think so many people on my team specifically are going to blow it out of the water within just, you know, their families and friends, homes themselves.
To your point, I mean, I think this whole Prism movement has been built to like hit every household.
Yes.
Right. This is not, I mean, it gets great. Our prior editions of S1, S2, S3 scanners were all on, medical professionals. I mean, these were $5,000 devices, and they're, you know, the accuracy, like the processes to go through all that were a little more technical.
Right.
And to be able to take that now, put it into a $300 device that can literally sit in every home, like the scale of the home, future state wearables, you know, I mean, it's just a different game.
Right.
So that's going to change things.
Absolutely.
Well, that's great. No, and this is great. So you actually put some notes together. So I'm going to ask you, is there anything that you, as you were thinking about being on a podcast, our podcast, that you thought, hey, I would love to be able to talk about that on the podcast? Have we hit any of them? Or is there anything?
No, we did. Yeah, they were all pretty much like, they all correlated to the questions that you asked, which were incredible. But one of my main focuses, to your point, I know I answered in a roundabout way, but about mindset. Yeah. I've been really intentional lately on focusing on like 3 wins a day in terms of a physical win, a mental win, and a spiritual win. And I feel like that's keeping me like grounded and more like I'm pouring into my own cup in order to then pour into others, because I think I was on autopilot, especially like newly postpartum. We were still hitting these massive goals. We were having all these promotions, and then like I said, my priorities kind of just like shifted for a bit. It's actually like it was like easier to do the business while I was like breastfeeding, and like he was just like sleeping all the time. And now I'm like, wait, my son's like crawling all around. He's in the garbage. He's doing this. He's doing that. And I need to be very intentional about like where I spend my time with, you know, my strategizing calls and onboarding and that kind of thing. So I've been more intentional about like taking care of me in a bit, in a bit, in order to then just like pour into my people that much more, you know? So a little bit of a shift. It's so
important. I mean, one of the things I love about this business, and you know, my mother had passed away during COVID, but she gave her whole life. We had 8 children, right? So gave her whole life to the kids. And then when the kids move out, it's like, what's my purpose?
Right.
And conversely, when I see people in this business, like you're raising your son, but as you said, you're caring for yourself. Yeah. I feel like that is such a vital, important for all of us, male, female, fathers, you know, mothers. Like our kids will grow up, they will become autonomous if we're successful. And we need to ensure that we're building a life that we want along the way. And I do think it comes down to daily habits and like the three things, and have whatever framework or structure you use, being able to develop your life, yourself, care for yourself, I think is such an important part. And it just happens to be this business enables you to do that and still be the mom you want to be at home with Lion, you know, with your husband. It's great. And I think we had a podcast a couple weeks ago. One of our key leaders in Latin America, she was talking about her mother, who's senior executive at it, and what a role model this was at Sony Pictures or something like that. I mean, it was crazy. And she said, I wanted that success, but I wanted it flexibility. I wanted autonomy. I wanted to be able to kind of limitless opportunity. And so I think we can provide the best of both.
Oh my gosh. Point, right? This business is literally meant for moms. Like, I mean.
And I think, meant for moms. I wish, well, I always say I signed the wrong agreement because I signed the employee agreement, but which means that I'm in the office far more than I ever was at home, unfortunately. But I do feel a lot of pride in opportunity we have to provide this
business
for
model.
people.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
and I think what you're doing is amazing, and I wish you so much success.
Thank you.
And can't wait to have you on the podcast when you hit our next
Thank
milestone.
you. Yeah.
Appreciate
That's
it.
the plan.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, thanks
Thank you for
everyone.
having me.
Thanks for joining the podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Great.
Thanks, Bree. Appreciate that.
Thank